Hello and welcome on Mindset&Co. If you're new here, my name is Maureen, and here we talk about mindset. We also talk about breathwork sometimes because I am a breathwork practitioner, and we talk about spirituality, law of attraction, all the fun stuff. Before we start this episode, I wanted to address to all my anxious people out there, all the health and wellness type people, I have something for you. I wanted to introduce you to products that I've been using in my breathwork practice. This are products from Tea Breaks. Tea Breaks is a company providing microdose tea. So there's so many different benefits to microdosing. Microdosing in tea makes it easy, helps better with the taste of the mushrooms, in my own opinion. And you can have different benefits of lowering your anxiety, helping physical pain, helping you relax. There's just so many benefits. I use these two teas in my breathwork practice. So this is the Immune Harmony that has more of a ginger, turmeric taste to it. And that is really good for when you have stomach aches, when you feel a little bit sick. This is going to help you. And here we have the Anxiety Reset. As the name is saying, it helps a lot with anxiety and helping you relax and stop feeling overwhelmed all the time. There's 250 milligrams in each tea bag of magic mushroom in it. So it's not a high dose. You won't feel high with this. You just feel very relaxed, and it's definitely gonna help you. This is not a paid advertisement, but I do have a promo code for you, 10% off, that I will put down in the description. So back to our topic, what to do when you're feeling a little bit lost, when you just don't know what to do with your life, and you feel like you're just putting back everything into perspective. And I just wanted to address first of why this might be happening, because it's important to understand how we feel before we can do anything about it, or if there's even anything to do with it. So I started to think of, why is it that when we're young, usually we don't put our whole life back in perspective as much as when we're adults? And the first thing that came to me is that, when we're young, everything is set up for us. We go to school. The things that we do is maybe play with our friends when we're not at school. Maybe we have a physical activity. Maybe we go play soccer. Maybe we go do dance, or whatever it is. Our life is kind of set up for us, and we have very limited options to our freedom, basically, in a sense. Like, we don't have money, or at least many of us don't have money. We just maybe won't have any liberties to, for example, go at night after, 8 p.m. Or maybe you cannot go to the mall with your friends because maybe your parents said so. Things like that. Our life is kind of set up for us. We have certain boundaries that we don't really find again when we become adults. Unless we go to university, but even then you choose to continue your school and going to university, you're considered an adult, right? You have access to your bank account. You're supposed to figure out your taxes and all of that. It's a bit of a mess at first. And I find that suddenly, when we're at university, or whether you started to work, you started your adult life, suddenly there's a whole world of possibilities opening up to you. You can open a bank account. You can decide to travel. You can decide to go back to uni. You can decide to start working full-time. I don't know. There's just so many options opening for you. And suddenly you start dreaming all of the options. And it's really beautiful when you have the options open up for you. And you feel like you have a choice. And I find when we start being around 16, 17, we're getting closer to becoming an adult. We start dreaming even more of these things before. We start thinking like, okay, when I'm gonna be 18, when I'm gonna be 21, I'm gonna start doing all those things. I'm gonna become an adult. I'm gonna have a bank account. I'm gonna have so much money. And you start having all these dreams, all these possibilities opening up in front of you. And then when that initial phase passed, when maybe you've accomplished so many things. Maybe it's been a few years, maybe it's been a few months for some of us, and you've started to discover that other reality of I can do whatever the heck I want. Then what? Then what? What do I choose to do? What is the right option for me? Am I on the right path? Am I making the right decisions? And then all those dreams, all those beautiful perspectives that we had turns into stress, maybe anxiety, maybe feelings of being overwhelmed into our new adult life. This might not have happened to you in your early 20s. Maybe that happened to you way later, like end of your 20s, maybe even in your 40s, you started to put everything back into perspective. I don't think we can put an age on that. That really depends on everyone. But the perspective and that transformation, that shift of I could do whatever I want, all the possibilities are open to me, towards suddenly feeling like, oh, it's too much. Am I doing enough? Am I taking the right path? There's this big shift that makes us wonder, okay, I don't know what I want to do suddenly. And that's the path of I have too many options suddenly. Because when we were younger, we didn't have those options. We were not really prepared to have this world of opportunities opening up to us. And so when we finally get into that, and suddenly you have all the administrative paper, literally everything to organize, and your whole life to carry. If your parents haven't prepared you for that, or the school haven't prepared you for that, your guardian haven't prepared you for that, whoever was taking care of you, then it can be really hard and overwhelming to suddenly having this world opening up. And so sometimes this can activate the flight, freeze, or fight triggers that we have internally in our systems, right? Sometimes when there's too many options, we don't know, we freeze, we don't know what to do anymore, or we start running towards every option, right? Or we just stay here and just be like, okay, I'm gonna do my very best, and I'm gonna take this one path, and I'm gonna follow all that path, and that's the only path I'm gonna take, that's the only option I'm gonna take. And this activates our survival systems in a way where we we don't know where to look anymore, or we just focus on this specific one goal. And so it can also happen that, when you're going at it and you have so many goals, so many intentions put at it, and suddenly there's a stop to it. So either, let's say, maybe you have an illness suddenly that makes you have to stop everything. Or maybe you're going on holidays where you don't want to check out your phone, you don't want to check out your emails. And having this break from your regular routine can bring up so many different things for so many people. Because suddenly we have time to think for ourselves. We're not in the hustle, we're not in the action, we have suddenly more time to think, okay, actually, what do I want? And traveling has this beautiful thing to it that makes you discover other cultures, and suddenly you realize there's potentially a life outside of your regular routine and outside of your work, outside of your work life. And how incredible is this, that when this happens, suddenly we start thinking about our life. We start thinking about, okay, what do I want? Is it still what I want? Am I doing still what I want? Mind you that when I am recording this episode, we are currently in Mercury retrograde. There was a full moon. If you don't know what that means, you can look it up, and then that might make a lot of sense to what is happening to you right now. Because of this Mercury retrograde, everything starts slowing down, and we start looking kind of at the past and at kind of what we have been doing and putting everything back into perspective before we can move forward again with it. So Mercury retrograde I kind of seen as a time where everything seems a little bit chaotic, but it's not that chaotic. It's just basically putting things back into perspective and in a period of reflection to what had happened and putting us back to alignment towards what we really, really want in this moment. So coming back to, all this travel, or maybe you have an illness and you have to stop and suddenly you're in bed maybe all day and you don't have much to do, so you start thinking about your life. So these times of reflection can be seen as horrible and terrible because suddenly we don't feel like we have a purpose anymore. That loss of purpose is incredibly hard for us humans because that's what drives us. That's what we were taught to do throughout our life. I do really believe that deep down inside, we know what we want, but sometimes we're just too afraid to admit it because sometimes what we want is outside of our comfort zone. Sometimes that means changing our lives completely, or that means changing a part of our life, and it's hard to change, and it feels heavy, and it feels complicated, and we're just afraid to admit that this is what we want. So ask yourself maybe right now, if you don't know what you want, is it because I'm afraid of something? What do I really want? I personally believe that deep down we know, or we have an intuition of what we're really moving forward. Sometimes it's true that what we want is a bit blurry and we cannot really pinpoint yet, and we don't know, and so we're kind of just flowing with life. That can happen, but really ask yourself, okay, am I afraid to admit what I really want? Or is it just that I'm not really sure yet and I need to kind of, figure it out as I go? So my first tip for you is first to admit that sometimes we just don't know what we want. And we don't always have an immediate answer. And it's okay. Like I've mentioned, sometimes it's just a little bit blurry. You don't exactly know what you want anymore, or if you even want something different, or if you want the same, and that's okay. That's okay. You don't need to figure out your whole life. I promise you, there's no rush. Unless there is an actual rush and a deadline into something, but really take the time to slow down and take time for yourself. Because if you don't know what you want and you're just running after things, one thing and one thing and one thing, then you end up being more overwhelmed, whereas what you actually need is time to slow down and time to think. And so it's important to find the bliss into the unknown. Sometimes we don't know. There are things in this life that we will never know. And if, figuring out what you want right now you don't know, then that's okay. So take a deep breath, okay? I promise you don't need to figure it out at this very right minute. Okay, sometimes we need to wait a couple of months, and then in a few months, something will happen and you'll be like, okay, yeah, this is what I want to do. You never know what life can pop at you. So just take it easy, okay? Relax a little bit. Take a microdose tea. Just relax. My second tip is finding activities that you enjoy doing. By activating this energy of I'm having fun, I love what I'm doing right now, then you're going to attract more things like this to you, because this is the energy that you will be in. So obviously you will attract the same thing. So if you start complaining all the time and be like, I don't know what I want to do, I hate this, I hate that, well, guess what? That's not going to help you figure out what you want to do, and that's not helping anyone, and that's not helping yourself. It's okay to complain. I do it sometimes as well, but it's important when you're in that mindset to stop it and go find something that you enjoy doing, to find back a little bit of positive mindset into it, and just start integrating things that you enjoy. And who knows, sometimes by starting things that you enjoy doing, you actually figure out what you want while doing it. It's an incredible thing, and I definitely recommend going more out there, finding things that you love. If you don't know what you love, because that happens sometimes, and that's okay, just take some time to well, find maybe activities that maybe you used to enjoy before, or that things that you're curious about, and then take a step forward towards doing it. I'm sure, I promise you, there's something out there that you're gonna like. And my third tip kind of joins the second one, is just take that time for yourself. As I've mentioned, if you're always running towards things, you never give yourself the time to actually stop and think for a second of, okay, is this what I really want? Okay, maybe I want to do this. Maybe I want to do this. These downtimes are so important. And trust me, as someone who used to run for things all the time and keep adding stuff to my plate, I started to feel overwhelmed and then ended up not knowing what I want. And that was normal because I was just overwhelmed all the time and I didn't take time for myself. And when I started to slow down, finally I could let things come to me and being open to it and be open to different things. So taking time for yourself is not just an act of self-care, but it's gonna help you figuring out what you want in your life and redirecting you into your alignment and what you really want. Okay, my last tip is to try to imagine the different scenarios in your life. So if you wouldn't have money involved in it, if you wouldn't have any health, any issue whatsoever in your life associated to every area of your life, try to imagine the different scenarios of what your life would look like. And then try to imagine, I don't know, maybe let's say you are work focused. Try to imagine yourself at a specific desk. Try to imagine yourself at a specific job. Try to imagine your whole day. What will your day look like? If you're someone who wants to travel, then try to imagine yourself in a plane. Try to imagine yourself in different parts of the world. How would your day look like? Imagine yourself in these different scenarios and try to see how you feel, how that makes you feel. We're gonna bring up some, well, manifesting into it, but mostly vision, okay? Vision is important because it's gonna help you really put yourself out there. Our brain doesn't make the difference between imagination and real life. So try that. It's definitely gonna help you, and try to imagine those different scenarios, the emotions linked to it, and then by imagining yourself, maybe you're gonna say, oh, actually I like that, oh, actually I hate this day, like it doesn't feel good at all. And then it's gonna help you kind of pinpoint a direction and or how you want your days to look like, at least. Okay, by experience, my last tip, I guess that could be considered a last tip, it is to really live in the moment. Okay, we don't need a 5-year or 10-year plan. If you have goals, if you have your intentions set up for years later, that's amazing. But if you don't, please remember that we don't need to, because life always keeps redirecting us into different situations, different experiences that we could never have foreseen. Try to imagine yourself 5 years prior. Did you imagine yourself where you would be today 5 years before, when you were 5 years younger? Could you have imagined where you are today? I know that by answering that question, it's going to be a definite no for me. I could never have imagined the path that I have chosen today. Okay, so you don't need those 5-year or 10-year plan. Again, if you have them, it's important to have intentions. It's important to have goals. But if you don't have them, you don't need them. Okay, all you need to do is just enjoy this moment. That's actually one of the recruiting questions that I hate, is when they ask you, where do you imagine yourself in 5 years? I hate this question because how would I know? Everybody, I feel like most of the people who answer that question are just lying through their teeth by saying things that other people want to hear. But most of us actually don't know. We have no idea what we want to do in 5 years or where we're going to be. And it's important to not add stress on that, because I'm telling you, you don't need that. Life keeps redirecting you. And when you finally kind of pinpoint a little bit better what you want, then this is when you can set up your intentions and your goals for the years to come, for the month to come. And you can always change that. Just remember, you don't have to be set in stone what you want. When you figure out what you want, this can change within the month, this can change within the years, and that's completely fine. If you go back to square one, that's okay. That's okay. That happens. That happened to me several times. It happened to me several times in my life that I just didn't know what to do, and that's perfectly fine. So I do want you to remember that. Okay, and that's the end of this video. Thank you so much for being here until the end. If you've liked this video, please comment. Don't forget to subscribe and like as well, so you get all the future notification and all the future videos on this channel. Let me know in the comments as well if you have requests for future videos, things that you would like me to talk about. And again, all the useful links will be in the description. And I will see you soon. Bye.